We open on the sprawling and peaceful royal capital. Down in the streets, a normal day unfolds. A young woman shops at a bustling market stall. She shares a light-hearted moment with the vendor, but her smile fades into a look of concern. A young man with a backpack suddenly calls out. Someone points to a dark speck in the sky. The woman's eyes widen in disbelief and terror. A monstrous dragon descends upon the city. The entire market freezes in a moment of dread. In a flash, the capital is reduced to rubble. Cries of anguish echo through the wreckage. The culprit reveals its form, a terrifying black dragon. It looms over the survivors, a shadow of death. The people recognize it as a legendary demon. The young woman sees no hope for survival, but a commander desperately rallies the guards. The royal mages prepare a counterattack. A flicker of hope ignites among the citizens. With a unified cry, they unleash their magic. The beast stares down the incoming assault. The attack connects in a blinding explosion. For a brief moment, the survivors dare to celebrate. But the mages watch in stunned silence. From the smoke, the dragon emerges completely unscathed. The crowd's desperate hope is utterly crushed. The lead mage can only stare in disbelief. He switches tactics from attack to oh no defense. But the dragon is already preparing its own attack. A torrent of dark energy erupts from its maw. The dragon's breath attack tears through the mage's ranks. The lead mage can only watch in absolute horror. He collapses amidst the rubble, utterly defeated. The cries of the wounded echo his own despair. A lost child desperately searches for her mother, but in her terror, she sees only another monster. The mage is left with nothing but his failure, and the shadow of death falls upon the innocent. The dragon declares that their world is at an end. But a lone hooded figure appears from nowhere. The dragon's final blow is unexpectedly stopped. A massive magical barrier envelops the city. Even the legendary beast is caught completely off guard. A new power has entered the battlefield. The mysterious savior summons a heavenly grace. A gentle rain begins to fall upon the ruins. The survivors watch as their wounds begin to heal. The market woman looks up, her hope rekindled. They see him now, a single man against a demon. A name is whispered through the crowd, the Black Emperor. They recognize him as the strongest adventurer alive. Their despair turns into a thunderous cheer for their hero. The Black Emperor, however, remains completely unfazed. He begins to gather his own dark power, forging a weapon worthy of slaying a god. In a flash, he closes the distance. His first strike draws blood, but it's not enough. So he decides to get a little more serious. He summons an entire arsenal of dark weapons. He declares the fight will end only when one of them falls. The Black Emperor stares down his foe, unflinching. The dragon roars, furious at this mortal's defiance. It unleashes another torrent of destructive energy. But our hero declares that the same trick won't work twice. With a single hand, he holds back the apocalypse and unleashes a devastating counterattack of his own. The barrage of dark magic finds its mark. The legendary beast cries out in genuine pain. Below, the survivors can only watch in stunned silence. He hovers over the wounded dragon, his victory certain. He takes a moment to survey the city he just saved, and the crowd's silence breaks into a deafening roar of celebration. But the Black Emperor seems completely indifferent to their praise. His duty done, he prepares to take his leave. The crowd watches as their savior begins to depart. The market woman realizes she never got to thank him. The little girl he saved looks up with pure adoration. The scene shifts to the Adventurers Guild headquarters. A guild official hurries to meet the returning hero. She catches up to him, asking about his quest. Other adventurers watch on, a mix of awe and jealousy. The Black Emperor confirms the mission is complete. The guild erupts, celebrating the impossible victory. The official asks if this was his life's sole ambition. He explains he only did it so he could finally quit. The woman does a double take, completely bewildered. He states it plainly. He's retiring as an adventurer. The entire guild is rendered speechless by his declaration. After all, he's one of only 8 of humanity's strongest. But the Black Emperor simply vanished, his whereabouts unknown. The Black Emperor simply vanished from the world. 3 years pass and a young man arrives at a new town. He's ready to begin a new life, free from his past. He registers under a new name, Bran, a rank 10 rookie. He stands in a local guild, starting from the very bottom. He accepts his new identity with a hint of awkwardness. The guild receptionist introduces herself with a kind smile. Her name is Rena, and she warmly welcomes him to the city. Our boy takes a moment to appreciate his new, peaceful home. A far cry from the bustling capital he'd grown tired of. He spent those years unlearning his old, flashy techniques. Now he's just another face in the crowd, a simple adventurer. A friendly gate guard waves, happy to see a new face. Bran thanks the man for his help finding the guild. The guard explains this town is on a dangerous frontier, a place rumored to be home to a legendary demon lord. And that's exactly why he chose to come here. The guard wishes him luck, completely unaware of who he's talking to. With his registration complete, it's time to find a quest. But first he has another priority to take care of. He walks into a real estate office, of all places. A friendly agent greets the young adventurer. Bran states his business plainly. He wants to buy a house. A strange request, as most adventurers live in inns. But he remembers his master's words about having a home. He assures the agent that money is no object, from his previous job. His only requests are for a spacious place with a bath. The agent has a property in mind, though it's a bit remote. He leads Bran to a charming house on the edge of town. But stepping inside, Bran is taken aback by what he sees. The agent admits the house is a bit far from the city center. But Bran is already sold, declaring he'll buy it on the spot. The agent is thrilled, explaining the house has been on the market for a while. He offers to pay the full amount in cash, right then and there. He casually hands over a hefty sack of coins. The agent's jaw drops at the sight of his very generous retirement fund. Bran is confused by the man's reaction, wondering if he's caused a problem. Now alone in his new home, he reflects on the hefty price tag. Still, it's a bargain compared to the bounty on the Black Dragon. He looks around, realizing the place is a bit too spacious for one person. He's not quite sure where to even begin settling in. He pulls out his brand new adventurer's license. A small smile plays on his lips. He's finally a rank 10 rookie. The scene shifts, showing other adventurers gossiping at a guild. They mock a newcomer who started at a high rank through a recommendation. A taller, cloaked figure calls out to his smaller companion. He tells his companion to pay no mind to the idle chatter. After all, in their world, results are the only thing that matters. The two mysterious adventurers then take their leave. A flashback reveals the hooded figure's immense power. He moves with a speed that defies the eye. This is the Black Emperor, known for taking on any quest without fail. The other adventurers can only watch in awe of his meteoric rise. His elf-like companion, however, remains silent and contemplative. The scene shifts again, to a woman looking out a window, whispering Bran's name. We flash back to Bran's master, giving him one final assignment. Defeat the Black Dragon and he would finally be free. Back in his adventuring days, he ponders the meaning behind his master's words. The guild official from the capital approaches with yet another high-profile request. She praises his flawless record, but he simply states he does what he's told. In a flashback, young adventurers celebrate completing a simple quest. The guild official from the capital scolds them for running indoors. The Black Emperor asks who they are, learning they're new rank 10 rookies. He overhears them discussing their menial jobs like collecting herbs. He questions the purpose of such tasks for an adventurer. The guild official simply smiles at his narrow-minded view. Just then, a family approaches to thank the rookies for their help. He watches this simple act of gratitude, a concept more foreign to him than a day off. He begins to ponder the meaning of these menial tasks. He sees how their work directly supports the community's well-being. And for the first time, Bran realizes his focus was only ever on destruction. He had only ever taken quests to eliminate threats, not to help people. The monsters he hunted were trophies, not direct dangers to citizens. He clenches his fist, questioning who was truly doing meaningless work. He realizes he wants to be useful in that same simple, direct way. But back then, the guild leadership refused to let him take lesser quests. The scene flashes to the mysterious woman whispering his name. A memory seems to strike Bran with sudden force. He recalls his master's final words to him. The promise of one simple thing: freedom. He wonders if his master knew this was the path he would choose, a path that might finally bring his heart some peace. He remembers a time when he was just an empty shell, a weapon, a boy with no memories asking his master for his own identity. He was a blank slate, defined only by his immense power. But he decides that his past doesn't matter anymore. Now he is simply Bran, a rank 10 adventurer. He looks at his new license, a symbol of his new life. A small, determined smile forms on his face. With renewed purpose, he decides to go accept his very first quest. As he heads out, a thought crosses his mind. He wonders for a moment what his master is up to. The scene shifts to a grand, imposing building. Inside, a blonde warrior sighs with annoyance. Across from her sits a stern-looking official. She's Kururu, the Sword Saint, and she's not leaving without answers. She tells the man to give up his search. It's been 3 years. But the official slams his fist down in frustration. Guess he's not a let-it-go kind of guy. He reminds her that she's Bran's master. He asks why she won't just send another top-rank adventurer. She smirks, knowing the real reason for his desperation. Her words strike a nerve with the old man. Her playful demeanor vanishes in an instant. An immense pressure fills the entire room. The official can barely breathe under her intense aura. Note to self: don't argue with a sword saint. She reminds him of her own legendary status and the vast power gap between him and a rank 0 like her. She's only here out of a sense of duty. He pleads that Bran is the only one they can rely on. She scoffs, calling his requests nothing more than chores. She steps on the scattered papers, dismissing his words. She recalls how they used Bran as a tool without a will. She explains she raised him to find his own purpose, not to be a pawn for the guild's leadership, and now that he's finally found that for himself, she warns them not to interfere with his new life. The official desperately calls out for her to wait, but she declares their conversation is over. With that, the Sword Saint takes her leave, muttering to herself about what a pain this all is. She steps out into the city, her message delivered. Alone now, she wonders how Bran is doing on his own. As long as he's happy, her duty to him is fulfilled. A sly smile forms. She decides she might pay him a visit. Meanwhile, Bran stands before the quest board, ready to begin. He quickly deduces that only the unpopular jobs are left. It seems monster subjugation is far more popular than manual labor. Other adventurers complain about the menial tasks, but for Bran, a simple herb-gathering quest is the perfect start. He presents his choice to the receptionist, Rena. She pulls out a strange box, leaving our boy a little confused. An awkward silence hangs between them for a moment. She explains the quest is now magically registered to his license. He asks to see a sample of the herb he's meant to collect. Rena kindly shows him a Hylia herb, explaining its features. But the moment he touches it, something feels off. A sudden jolt of information floods his mind. He clutches his head as Rena looks on with concern. He's suddenly aware of the herb's every property and use. He plays it off as a simple headache and thanks her for her help. With his first quest accepted, Bran heads into the forest. It doesn't take long for him to spot his target. In fact, he quickly realizes the herb is growing everywhere. Using his newfound knowledge, he harvests it with expert care. He continues his work, still pondering the strange phenomenon. His thoughts are interrupted by a common forest slime. The creature lunges forward, hoping for an easy meal, but it chose the wrong rank 10 rookie to mess with. He calmly informs the puddle that it picked the wrong opponent. He looks down to find the slime's core, proof of his first kill. He considers the slime core, but decides money isn't his motivation. He leaves it behind, more interested in the simple joy of gathering herbs. With a full sack, he decides he's collected more than enough for one day. He returns to the city, where the gate guard is impressed by his massive haul. Bran heads straight back to the guild to turn in his first quest. Rena greets him with a bright and welcoming smile. She asks how the request went, and he confirms its completion. He presents the sack of herbs for her to inspect. She's stunned by the sheer volume, but Bran just says he got carried away. Rena is a little confused by his idea of a good time. Our boy seems genuinely baffled that she wouldn't find it fun. She can't help but let out a small, amused laugh. She tells him he's an interesting one and goes to process the quest items. While he waits, Bran overhears some troubling gossip from other adventurers. They're talking about monsters appearing far closer to town than usual. There's a growing fear that the creatures might breach the city's defenses. His expression hardens as he recalls the rumors about the Demon Lord. But Rena calls his name, pulling him from his thoughts. She returns with a look of pure, unadulterated excitement. She gushes about the pristine quality of every single herb he brought back. She laments that most adventurers ignore these vital quests for glory. Thanks to him, she says, they'll finally be able to restock their supplies. Bran is momentarily stunned by her heartfelt gratitude. Just as he's processing this, she remembers one last thing. She officially congratulates him on completing his very first quest. She returns his license, now marked with his first success. He accepts it with a genuine smile, thanking her for her help. Rena is completely caught off guard by his sudden warmth. As he leaves, he reflects on the simple feeling of being truly useful. He walks home with a newfound spring in his step, much to the confusion of onlookers. He declares that tomorrow, he'll take on even more of these simple jobs. With his mind made up, he takes a shortcut home, a path not exactly available to the average citizen. He leaps across the rooftops, much to the delight of the children below. But on his way, he spots something in a dark alley. His adventurer's instincts suddenly kick in. A sly smile crosses his face as he says, "Found you." A nearby cat's ear twitches, sensing a presence. The feline loses its footing, and for a moment, gravity takes over. But Bran moves in a flash, catching the terrified creature midair. He lands with a grace that defies his rookie rank. The cat, however, is still processing its near-death experience. Bran gives its cheeks a little squish just to be sure it's real. The ungrateful furball immediately begins to fight back, but he confirms the pink collar, another quest complete. He can't help but wonder why every animal seems to hate him on sight. It's a curse that follows him from monsters to house pets. The grateful owner thanks him, but Bran makes a mental note to avoid pet quests. The next day, he arrives at a merchant's guild for his next job. He's greeted by the client, a man named Belmo. The task is simple: load heavy cargo onto a series of carts. Belmo explains that no one else would take such a low-paying, high-risk job. Most adventurers prefer the glory of monster hunting. He apologizes for the menial labor, but Bran doesn't seem to mind. Belmo points him to the cargo, ready to begin the long day's work. But Bran lifts a massive stack of crates with a single hand. The entire warehouse watches in stunned silence. He pauses for a moment, noticing their strange reaction. He simply asks if there's a specific order for loading. Belmo can only stare, his brain struggling to compute what he just saw. Belmo stammers, asking if he's sure he can carry all that. Bran simply replies that this is still pretty light for him. The workers can't believe their ears. Light? That's a week's work for them. But his impossible feat inspires the rest of the crew to work harder. They watch as he moves mountains of cargo with impossible ease. In what feels like minutes, the entire job is done. Bran calmly tells the others not to push themselves too hard. But one worker's pride is on the line, he won't be shown up. He tries to lift a single crate, straining with all his might. But his strength fails and the cargo comes crashing down. In a flash, Bran moves to shield them from the danger. He asks if they're all right, holding them both safely. His expression is calm, as if this was nothing at all. The young woman thanks him, completely flustered. And her coworker seems to be having a moment too. He quickly snaps out of it, his pride thoroughly wounded. Bran has already secured the crate, assuring them it's no problem. He reports to Belmo that the job is done with no damage. The entire crew thanks him, their gratitude genuine and heartfelt. Belmo is amazed by his strength, and Bran just says he trains a bit. The merchant is so impressed, he offers him a full-time job on the spot. Bran is caught completely off guard by the sudden offer. A small, genuine smile forms on his face. He politely declines, saying he's happy with his new life as an adventurer. They tell him the offer is always open if he changes his mind. With the quest complete, he bids his new friends farewell. He reflects on his recent jobs, feeling truly fulfilled for the first time. Back at the guild, Rena greets him with some exciting news. She congratulates him on his promotion, but Bran is horrified. He tries to refuse, insisting he wants to stay a rank 10 rookie forever. Rena explains that automatic promotion is simply a guild rule, but Bran collapses in despair, his dream of being a rookie shattered. He laments losing his rank 10 status, much to Rena's confusion. She asks why he's so against it, since ranking up helps the citizens. Higher ranks can take on monster quests, protecting the innocent. She reminds him that an adventurer's duty is to expand humanity's safe zones. Her words strike a chord deep within him. He'd only ever followed orders, never considering the real purpose. Rena smiles, adding that he can still take the simple quests if he wants. Bran's entire world lights up at this revelation. Our boy's priorities are certainly unique. Rena can only agree, completely baffled by his reaction. She takes his license to officially process the promotion. With a smile, she congratulates him on reaching rank 9. Bran looks at his new card, muttering that he's not happy about it. He accepts his fate, now a slightly less rookie adventurer. He immediately asks for another simple quest, trying to reclaim his old life. But a new adventurer enters, asking Rena about the new rookie. She declares with a bright smile that she's found her new junior to mentor. Bran is completely lost, having no idea what she's talking about. The woman leans in, her request hanging in the air. But Bran immediately shuts her down with a firm no. Rena scolds him, explaining this is an official guild request. The woman cheekily points out that this whole situation is his fault. Rena explains that his quest hoarding is preventing other rookies from ranking up. The quest board is nearly empty, a testament to his over-efficiency. Bran admits he's been avoiding the animal quests at least, which is probably for the best, since those have a notoriously low success rate. He realizes his simple desire to help has created a massive bottleneck. The woman notes he never considered the consequences of being too good, and once again, Bran is left to ponder the unforeseen results of his actions. Rena clarifies that it's not a complaint. His work is just incredibly helpful. In fact, she's never seen an adventurer so dedicated to the simple jobs, and because of that, she has a very important request for him. She asks him to share his knowledge and techniques with the other rookies. The guild will, of course, compensate him for his time and expertise. Bran scoffs, asking if this is some kind of elaborate joke about a promotion. He considers the offer, admitting he doesn't even know how to teach anyone. But since this whole mess is his fault, he reluctantly agrees to help. The new adventurer introduces herself as Arya with a surprisingly formal bow. She's just thrilled to meet a senior who also appreciates the simple quests. Bran realizes he's found a fellow menial job enthusiast. Finally, someone gets it. Rena hands over their licenses, officially starting their joint mission. With their task set, the new duo heads out of the guild. Their first lesson begins, a walkthrough of the rank 10 herb quests. He asks what she knows, and she admits, not much beyond one type of herb. Arya proudly presents her first find, a freshly picked Hylia herb. But Bran immediately points out her mistake, pulling out the entire root. He demonstrates the proper way to harvest, leaving the root so it can regrow. He even shows her advanced preservation methods for more delicate plants. Arya realizes that's probably a bit overkill for such a common herb, but Bran explains that the skills are still useful to learn for the future. She looks on with pure admiration, completely impressed by his expertise. She gushes that he's just as amazing as Rena said he was. She admits she never considered the long-term impact of her gathering. She smiles, finding a newfound joy in the simple, thoughtful task. Bran listens intently to her words, finding a kindred spirit. A genuine smile forms on his face. He's not alone in his thinking. He agrees that menial work should never be mocked, and she begs him to teach her more. He points to the next plant, which is growing right at her feet. He identifies it as ruruku grass, a key ingredient for mana potions. He explains there's a catch to using this particular herb, but his senses suddenly pick up a faint disturbance nearby. A sudden rustle in the bushes puts them both on high alert. Bran looks around, wondering what could have caused the sound. Arya, however, is more concerned with the herb's side effects. He explains it's toxic if not prepared correctly, dismissing the noise. But high above, something unseen continues to watch them. Back at the guild, Rena congratulates him on another promotion. He accepts his new rank 8 license with all the joy of a root canal. He desperately tries to find a way out of the next promotion exam. He tries to change the subject, but Rena isn't having any of it. Meanwhile, Arya celebrates her own successful promotion to rank 9. Rena tells him not to feel bad. His help meant the world to her. She explains the mentorship program was a huge success. Bran realizes this is his ticket to avoiding monster quests forever. But his unique career path has earned him a new nickname, the Chore Boy. Other adventurers mock him for only taking on menial tasks. They're shocked to learn he's ranking up faster than they are. They can't understand his lack of ambition, jealous of his success. Rena tells him to ignore the gossip, but he's clearly annoyed. He sighs, already tired of his newfound and very lame reputation. He accepts his new license, the symbol of his continued failure to fail. As he leaves, Rena waves goodbye from the office. She watches him go, thinking to herself what an odd person he is. Just then, another guild worker playfully surprises her from behind. The woman asks if that was the famous chore boy she's heard about. She teases Rena, amused by Bran's quiet acceptance of the mockery. She admits that while he seems unmotivated, his work is a huge help. She critiques his messy hair and gloomy posture from afar. She concludes that he's wasting his good looks with such a lack of ambition. Rena flusters, insisting her co-worker has the completely wrong idea. The entire guild stops to eavesdrop on the juicy gossip. She slams her hand down, declaring she's here to work, not find a date. Her friend, however, is only interested in marrying a rich, handsome adventurer. She lists off the most eligible bachelors, much to Rena's annoyance. The other adventurers now demand to know who Rena has her eye on. Her co-worker assumes she's aiming for the top ranks, where competition is fierce. But Rena panics, insisting she's not looking for anyone at all. Guess she's not on guild Tinder. The crowd leans in, asking her to at least describe her ideal type. Her friend's eyes sparkle. She's not letting Rena escape this conversation. Under pressure, Rena admits she'd prefer a lower-ranked adventurer. She quickly clarifies it's not about their future potential.
The adventurers whisper, unable to understand why she'd choose a life of struggle.
Rena explains that being together is more important than any amount of wealth. Her co-worker is taken aback by this surprisingly wholesome answer. She then asks about Rena's father, sensing there's more to the story. A flashback reveals a group of adventurers, battered and broken. As a child, she was told her father was a hero for his sacrifice, but she tearfully admits she would have preferred him alive over any title. Her friend listens with a sad smile, finally understanding. The rest of the guild, however, has already lost interest in the drama. Rena smiles, saying that's why she's not worried about the chore boy. Her co-worker's comment leaves her a little confused. The woman winks, pointing out that Bran fits Rena's description perfectly. She then dramatically declares that men with no ambition are a bad choice. But Rena just smiles, thinking of Bran and her own path to happiness. Elsewhere, Bran overhears a familiar voice asking to team up again. It's Arya, looking more determined than ever. She explains her next quest is in the dangerous demon forest. Bran considers it, realizing he's never been there himself. Arya apologizes for interrupting his work with her request. He asks if she's ready to head out right away. He tells her to wait, then dashes off to finish his current job. Arya is left completely speechless by his impossible speed. She marvels at the physical strength required of a rank 8 adventurer. She reflects on her own limits, unable to match his power. A moment of self-doubt creeps in, questioning her own path. But she quickly shakes it off, remembering her resolve to grow stronger. She declares her renewed determination, much to Bran's confusion. He offers some awkward encouragement, which seems to work. With his quest done, they finally set off for the demon forest. The path leads them into the dark, imposing woods, a place known for its dangerous and powerful creatures. But deep within, a mysterious figure senses an impossible presence. She recognizes the aura, believing its owner should be long dead. A monstrous hand emerges, expressing its displeasure. A powerful entity awakens, preferring its slumber undisturbed. The 6th demon lord has been roused from its rest. Meanwhile, Arya finds herself facing a monstrous forest serpent. Her magic connects, but it barely seems to faze the beast. She stands her ground, ready for a real fight. With a powerful swing, she cuts the creature down. Bran watches from the sidelines, impressed by her skill. Guess he can take a break from being the hero. She proudly declares that her special training has paid off. Bran notes that the forest entrance is safe for lower ranks. He asks why she became an adventurer, and her story begins. She explains her town was destroyed by the Black Dragon 3 years ago. Just as all hope was lost, the legendary Black Emperor appeared. She recounts his heroic deeds, from healing the wounded to slaying the beast. Seeing him that day inspired her to become a hero in her own right. She declares with a bright smile that the Black Emperor is her idol. Bran is left completely speechless by her confession. He never considered his past actions could inspire someone's entire life. But another forest serpent quickly snaps them back to reality. He compliments Arya's impressive swordsmanship, much to her surprise. Their quest continues as Arya spots a tree laden with fruit. She points it out excitedly, but Bran's strange ability kicks in again. He explains the proper way to harvest the delicate fruit. His lesson continues, showing her how to avoid bruising them in transit. But his senses suddenly pick up something far more dangerous. A magical presence even stronger than the Black Dragons. He wonders if this is the demon lord he's heard rumors about. The power is immense, yet he senses no killing intent. He decides it's best to head back to town before it gets dark. Still, he can't shake the feeling that something is watching them. The scene shifts to another day, another menial quest for our boy. He harvests an entire orchard with impossible speed and precision. The fruits are perfectly gathered, not a single one damaged. The other workers can only stare in awe at his flawless technique. He notes the tougher stems would be a pain to do by hand. Good thing he's not limited to by hand. The orchard owner is overcome with gratitude for his amazing work. He's even offered another full-time job on the spot. The friendly gate guard notes that he might be overdoing it a bit. Bran seems genuinely confused by the idea of working too hard. The guard reminds him that taking a break is important too. He suggests Bran take some time to actually enjoy the town. Alone on a rooftop, Bran realizes he's been too focused on work. A local merchant explains the town has more to offer than just quests. He offers the kid a taste of the local specialty, a massive grilled skewer, the perfect reward for a hard day's work. The merchant insists he's serious, but Bran is just focused on the food. He realizes it's a waste to ignore the simple pleasures of a new town. With newfound resolve, he declares this will be a regular part of his new life. The vendor is so amused, he offers Bran another one on the house. The others chime in, explaining that Bran has helped them out too. He's surprised to hear that the entire town is grateful for his work. They explain that he's the reason their menial requests are finally getting done. Thanks to him, the local apothecary is fully stocked for the first time in ages. The free food, they explain, is just a small token of their immense gratitude. Bran is taken aback, not used to this kind of simple, direct appreciation. He happily accepts their thanks and the skewer, of course. They mention that he could be taking on far more lucrative quests if he wanted. He reflects that food never tasted this good back in his old life. He remembers his master, realizing she's the reason he's here at all. The merchant admits that monster hunting has a certain heroic appeal, but Bran firmly declares that menial work is just as cool. His simple declaration leaves the two men completely speechless. They call him an oddball, but a welcome one, and tell him not to worry Rena. But his good mood is interrupted by another adventurer with a complaint. Suddenly, the entire town seems to show up, showering him with gifts. He's completely overwhelmed by their generosity, trying to refuse. A chorus of thanks echoes through the street. The scene shifts to a woman tending to her flowers in a small shop. She spots Bran struggling with his mountain of gifts and lets out a laugh. She even offers to add some flowers to his already impossible load. But then, an idea suddenly strikes him. He asks if she sells any vegetables he could plant in his own garden. She recommends some tomato plants, perfect for a beginner. She rattles off a list of other simple plants he could try. A short while later, Bran looks exhausted but satisfied with his hard work. He surveys his handiwork, a small garden now gracing his new home. He recalls the shopkeeper's advice, finding another simple joy in his new life. With the day's work done, he finally heads inside. He realizes it's the first time he's truly taken a moment to relax. And what better way to unwind than a long, hot bath? He reflects on this simple pleasure, a feeling he's never known before. He realizes there were so many things he'd overlooked in his past. A simple bath feels like a baptism into a brand new world. A very clean one. With his energy restored, he's ready to tackle tomorrow's chores. Back at the guild, Rena seems to be in a particularly good mood. Bran, meanwhile, is back to his usual routine, taking another simple quest. Rena mentions that Arya has taken a similar quest in the Demon Forest. She warns him to be careful as the forest is still dangerous. He thanks her for the warning and heads on his way, but once he's gone, her cheerful demeanor fades. She recalls her co-workers teasing, leaving her a bit flustered, but her thoughts are interrupted by another adventurer needing assistance. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes from the guild's entrance. An injured adventurer stumbles in, collapsing on the floor. The entire guild rushes to his side, demanding to know what happened. He gasps out a warning. A tyrant golem has appeared in the forest. Rena is horrified. A rank 3 monster shouldn't be near the entrance. Panic spreads as such a powerful creature has never been seen here. The man reveals there wasn't just one, but 3 of the monsters. The adventurers realize they're outmatched. Their town has no high rankers. Just then, the guild master bursts through the doors. He declares an emergency quest to deal with the tyrant golems. He orders all low-rank adventurers to stay clear of the forest. The higher ranks are tasked with defending the city walls. Rena's heart sinks as she realizes who is already out there. The other adventurers accept their grim duty. It's the life they chose. As they head out, Rena can only watch them go with a worried heart. She desperately informs the guild master that 2 rookies are still out there. He recalls the simple fruit-gathering quests they accepted. He curses their timing, frustrated that the chore doers are in the line of fire. He dismisses them, assuming they lack any real combat skill. Rena remembers Bran's sword, noting it's never even been used. Her hands tremble as she realizes the terrible implication. The guildmaster's face hardens with grim resolve. He declares they have no resources to spare for a rescue. He tells her she knows the rules as well as he does. In an emergency, adventurers are expected to fend for themselves. The safety of the town must come before any individual. Rena can only whisper their names, her hope completely crushed. Meanwhile, in the forest, Bran finds Arya's fallen sword. Nearby, Arya sits wounded and defeated against a tree. She refuses to accept that this is where her story ends. With tears in her eyes, she calls out for her hero, the Black Emperor. But the only thing that answers is the shadow of a monster. The tyrant golem looms over her, a vision of absolute despair. Elsewhere, Bran is still focused on his original quest. He notices the forest is strangely barren, with no herbs in sight. He wonders if something could have simply wiped the area clean. A horrifying thought crosses his mind. He might fail the quest. He panics, unwilling to tarnish his hard-earned chore boy reputation. But a dark energy suddenly fills the air, snapping him out of it. His expression shifts from mild panic to cold seriousness. He senses an immense power, far stronger than a rank 5 monster. Hiding in the brush, he recalls the guild's outdated intel. He assesses the golem, noting it's far too much for a normal adventurer. It's a rank 3 tyrant golem, a monster of earth and plants. He realizes it's been absorbing the forest's life force, which means this thing is the reason he can't finish his quest. Our boy has his priorities straight. He decides to deal with it quickly and get back to work. But then he spots a familiar figure through the rocks. It's Arya, wounded and on the verge of collapse. His eyes widen in shock as he whispers her name. The golem's hand descends to finish her off, but a flash of steel intercepts the fatal blow. Bran holds Arya close, shielding her from the monster. The creature stares down, its attack completely thwarted. It lets out a guttural roar of frustration. He calls out her name as the golem's arm crumbles. He quickly pulls out a healing potion for her. The restorative liquid washes over her wounds. He notes that he's glad he carried a potion, just in case. Arya lets out a quiet sob of relief and exhaustion. Bran, ever the master of social cues, is completely baffled. He places a cool cloth on her head, a strange feeling stirring. He decides he'll have to ask his master about it later. But for now, his only priority is getting Arya to safety. Suddenly, his senses scream out a warning. A massive beam of energy tears through the forest. It carves a path of utter destruction in its wake. He lands safely, wondering what is happening to this forest. He looks up to see two more golems have joined the party. One of them is already preparing another devastating attack. He leaps away just as the blast obliterates their position. He lands in a tree, assessing the impossible situation. Three of them at once? Something is terribly wrong here. He leaps through the air, dodging the coordinated assault. For their size, he notes, they're impossibly fast. He knows golems shouldn't be smart enough to work together. A horrifying thought crosses his mind. Someone, somewhere, is pulling the strings. He tells Arya to hang on, this will be over in a moment. His expression hardens as he grips his sword. Another beam of pure destruction carves through the forest. The sheer force of the blast tears the earth apart. He assesses the attack's power from a safe distance. As long as it doesn't hit him, it's not really his problem. With a single fluid motion, he deflects the incoming energy. He lands safely, Arya still secure in his arms. The aftershock of his parry dissipates into the air. He admits he's still not on his master's level, but he's getting there. With the immediate threat handled, he considers his next move. He looks at the pile of rubble, wondering how to clean this up. Back at the guild, Rena and the master are stunned by his report. The guildmaster demands to know why he hid his true power. Rena, however, happily congratulates him on another promotion. She explains he can't take menial jobs with all these noble requests. Bran's face drains of all color. His perfect life is ruined. He panics, realizing he has to hide the evidence of his strength. But Arya saw everything, and his sword left magical traces. He realizes there's no way to completely cover his tracks, unless he uses the one power he was forbidden to reveal. He groans, remembering his master's strict warning, but with Arya unconscious, no one would ever know. He raises his hand, ready to erase the evidence, but he stops, confused. The magical residue is already gone, but he stops, realizing what this strange phenomenon means. He senses a new power, one that dwarfs even the black dragon. A dark presence emanates from deeper within the forest. He looks down to see the three golems have begun to merge. They've formed a single, colossal monster before him. The new monstrosity immediately unleashes an attack. He leaps aside, dodging a barrage of energy beams. The ground erupts where he stood just a moment before. He braces himself, ready for the next phase of the fight. He notes the creature's incredible durability. This is getting annoying. With a quick pivot, he prepares to close the distance. He moves in a blur, unleashing a powerful sword strike. But his attack fails to even scratch the monster's core. He lands, realizing this opponent is on another level. He deduces its materials are the same, but its power is amplified. The creature looms over him, seemingly invincible. He realizes it's using that strange new magic to reinforce itself. But once he understands the trick, the solution is simple, and he's more than ready to vent his frustration for the failed quest. He declares this monster is the perfect target. He flips through the air with impossible agility, positioning himself perfectly for a decisive blow. He unleashes a spinning slash with all his might. The monster's core shatters into a million pieces. His logic is simple. Fight magic with even stronger magic. And his own dark power is more than enough for the job. He leaps to safety as the colossal beast begins to crumble. The creature's form dissolves into dust and rubble. He lands, slightly annoyed by the mess he's made. He laments that a monster with no loot is just a waste of time. Our boy, ever the pragmatist. With the battle over, Bran considers himself lucky the evidence just vanished. He carries the unconscious Arya on his back, heading for the safety of the city. At the gate, the guards are stunned to see the two rookies return alive. The guildmaster's face is a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. Sometime later, Arya slowly begins to regain consciousness. She finds herself in an unfamiliar bed, wondering what happened. Rena enters the room, overjoyed to see that she's finally awake. Arya's memory is hazy. She only recalls being in the forest for a quest. Rena explains the emergency, but assures her the situation is now under control. Arya lets out a sigh of relief, trusting Rena's words completely. She asks if the guild was the one who came to her rescue. Rena's cheerful but vague answer only leaves her more confused. Guess that's a no. Then, elsewhere, the guildmaster is weeping with overwhelming relief. He crushes Bran in a hug, apologizing for ever doubting him. From the doorway, Arya and Rena watch the strange scene unfold. Rena explains that the stoic guildmaster has a surprisingly emotional side. Bran, however, just looks like he wants this entire ordeal to be over. Rena watches him with a knowing smile, while Arya is still lost. She finally reveals the truth. It was Bran who brought her back safely. Arya asks the obvious question. Did he also defeat that monster? She struggles to believe the chore boy could be a powerful warrior. Rina asks her to recount everything she remembers from the forest. Arya draws a map, explaining the sequence of events. She recalls being overwhelmed by a horde of monsters and the golems. Her last memory is of the golem's final attack before she blacked out. Rina listens, concluding that Bran must have been the one to intervene, but Arya insists she's never even seen him draw his sword. Rina points out that the explosions from the battle were seen from the city walls, and more importantly, Arya's life-threatening wounds have been completely healed. She checks herself, realizing it's true, and wonders who her mysterious savior could be. Rina speculates that a high-ranking adventurer must have been nearby. The thought strikes Arya with sudden, shocking force. Could her mysterious savior be the legendary Black Emperor? Regardless, she closes her eyes, grateful to whoever saved her life. The Guildmaster, meanwhile, is still celebrating Bran's heroism. Our boy, on the other hand, looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. Rina and Arya can only share an amused look at the strange display. His celebration is cut short as another guild member finally intervenes. Now free, Bran desperately tries to get back to his simple quests. But Rina's apologetic smile tells him that's not going to happen. The demon forest is now restricted while the golem incident is investigated. A month passes, and the investigation has yielded no new leads. With the forest closed, there are no quests left for the lower ranks. So Rina offers him a solution. Take the promotion exam. But the moment she mentions it, Bran has already vanished. He sighs, frustrated that the monster incident is ruining his quiet life. He realizes that if he wants his old life back, he can't just stand by while the town suffers. His purpose was to help people in his own simple way, and if a monster's the problem, then he'll be the solution. He dashes off, determined to protect his precious chore-filled life. He takes to the rooftops, a blur of motion against the sky. He moves with an agility that betrays his simple reputation. He lands silently in the forest, ensuring he wasn't followed. With a bit of stealth, he slips past the city's perimeter guards. He looks out over the vast expanse of the demon forest. He follows the faint magical trace he sensed during the golem fight. He considers flying, but decides against revealing his power. This whole being discreet thing is proving to be a real pain. But as he ponders his next move, he's not as alone as he thinks. He decides against subtlety. Running is the only option. He sets off at a brisk pace, knowing he has a lot of ground to cover. The forest becomes a blur as he moves within human speed. But something ahead forces him to a sudden stop. A massive beast crashes through the trees, fleeing from deeper in the woods. It's a rank 6 rock grizzly, far from its usual territory. The creature lunges, seeing him as an easy meal. But Bran easily dodges, telling the beast he doesn't have time for this. He leaps away, leaving the monster in his dust. He casually waves, promising to deal with it on the way back. What a guy. But his expression shows he's getting tired of these interruptions. Soon, he's swarmed by a horde of other high-level monsters. A berserk Trent joins the fray, its branches like deadly whips. Even another tyrant golem stands in his path. He lands amidst the chaos, realizing this is a full-blown demonic infestation. He wonders if the guild simply has no idea what's really out here. He's surrounded, noting that this would be impossible for any normal adventurer. But a calm, knowing look crosses his face. The constant fighting reminds him of his grueling training with his master. A flashback to Kururu, the sword saint, screaming his name. She berates him for lowering his guard for even a second. A younger Bran looks on in terror as a monster closes in. His master's lesson was simple. Hesitation means death. Back in the present, he reflects on those harsh but necessary lessons. He continues on, thinking that her training methods were not exactly child-friendly. He finally sees a break in the dense canopy above. He picks up the pace, complaining about the sheer size of the forest. He recalls Rina's warning that this could take days to resolve. And the memory of the Guildmaster's tearful hug only fuels his desire to finish this quickly. At last, he arrives at the source, the magical heart of the demon forest. He recalls the tyrant golem's power, but this is something else entirely. His gaze hardens knowing he's found the source. He stands before a colossal plant formation, calling out to the presence within. A mysterious long-haired figure stirs from within the foliage. He states that after a 3-day journey, the least they can do is show themselves. His patience is clearly wearing thin. Guess demon lords don't respect appointments. The ground suddenly erupts with a wave of razor-sharp vines. He leaps into the air, effortlessly dodging the surprise attack. A confident smirk crosses his face. This is more his speed. The figure finally emerges, commenting on his impressive reflexes. She recognizes his aura, confirming he's the one she's been waiting for. But she's confused, questioning how a mere human can possess such an aura. He calmly confirms that he is, in fact, human. He asks if she's the demon lord, noting her own aura feels strangely human. He identifies the presence as that of the sixth demon lord. The number throws him off, he's never heard of a sixth. She's just as confused, stating she was taught there were only 5 in total. She clutches her head in frustration, preferring diplomacy over this confusing mess. Her gaze remains fixed on the boy standing before her. He wonders why a demon lord would resort to using weapons like the golems. It seems like a crude tactic for someone of her supposed power. He admits he has no idea what she's talking about and asks for an explanation. She explains that the previous 6th demon lord was unlike the others, a being of pure hatred and destruction with no mind of its own. She decides she needs to confirm her suspicions for herself. Suddenly, a mass of dark, monstrous tendrils erupts from behind her. He draws his sword, realizing her idea of confirming is not very friendly at all. He's immediately swarmed, forced to defend against the relentless assault. He realizes a single sword won't be enough to handle this onslaught. He leaps back, deciding that if she won't talk, then neither will he. She wonders if all demons are fated to be humanity's enemy. Bran deflects the onslaught with a flurry of sword strikes. He sighs, realizing he has no other choice. With a firm grip on his sword, he prepares to get serious. The demon lord is taken aback by his sudden shift in power. He unleashes a powerful wave of his own dark energy. She notes that after 3 years, he's still at this level. Bran summons his forbidden arsenal, knowing his master would disapprove. Guess the warranty on his quiet life just expired. He unleashes a barrage of god-slaying spears. With no one around to see, he decides to finally go all out. But he stops, confused by her reaction or lack thereof. She explains his magic is just a pale imitation of the true sixth. Her eyes narrow as she demands to know who he really is. The ground erupts with a new, more powerful assault. Bran shouts back that he could ask her the same thing. He warns her to start talking, or this fight gets much worse. He knows her power isn't infinite. He just needs an opening. He spots his chance, locking onto her from across the battlefield. The demon lord decides she has no choice but to end this. A tidal wave of monstrous vines erupts from the ground. Bran can only marvel at the sheer scale of her attack. He raises a single hand, erecting a powerful magical barrier. The demon lord watches on with a confident, playful smirk. But his ultimate defense begins to crack under the pressure. He's thrown back as the vines shatter his shield. He struggles, completely ensnared by the demonic plants. From behind the barrier, she watches her trap spring shut. The vines wrap around him, forming a massive, living prison. She stands before the colossal tree, her spell complete. With a triumphant smile, she declares that he's been caught. She asks if her little demonstration has answered his questions. But the sound of cracking wood echoes from within the prison. A blade slices through the vines, a sign of his defiance. Bran grips his sword, refusing to accept his defeat. But he notes that his blade barely made a scratch. He recalls how this same sword cut down the tyrant golem. His eyes narrow, realizing this prison is on another level. He senses her power. She's poured everything into this spell. So he decides to fight fire with fire. Or in this case, magic with more magic. He declares that when it comes to raw power, he's second to none. A dark sigil forms, spinning with immense energy. It condenses into a swirling vortex of pure destruction. With a determined look, he unleashes his counterattack. A massive wave of dark magic erupts from his position. But he can only watch in complete disbelief. The colossal tree prison stands completely unharmed. He lets out a laugh, baffled that his attack did nothing. The demon lord explains that his efforts are completely useless. This, she reveals, is the very magic used to seal the original sixth. Bran's expression hardens, tired of hearing that title. He clenches his fist, his frustration finally boiling over. His stomach rumbles. All he can think about is getting home for a snack. With his options dwindling, he looks to the sky. He thinks of his master knowing what he has to do. He's facing a demon lord. This is no time to hold back. He clutches his chest, preparing to unleash his true power. The demon lord's eyes widen in shock at the sudden shift. She demands to know what this new, terrifying power is. Bran explains that using this technique is incredibly draining, and the thought of another 3-day walk home is just exhausting. A column of pure, unholy darkness erupts from his hand. He forges a weapon from the abyss, the Spear of the End. The raw power sears his very flesh as he wields it. With a single thrust, the spear pierces the unbreachable prison. The demon lord can only watch, her confidence completely shattered. From within, Bran tears his way through the demonic vines. She asks if he's had enough, but the fight is far from over. He emerges from the wreckage, declaring his escape. but the immense power has taken a serious toll on him. He knows that pushing himself any further would be a grave mistake. In that moment of weakness, the demon lord closes the distance. He realizes too late that he completely let his guard down. She points to his chest, revealing an impossible truth. He possesses the heart of the sixth demon lord. The demon lord laughs, amused by this shocking revelation. Suddenly she multiplies, surrounding the bewildered boy. Bran demands an explanation. Having never even met this demon, he reminds her that she was the one who called the sixth an enemy. She clarifies it was an enemy to everyone, not just humanity. A threat to the entire world, from gods to demons. She claims she never intended to kill him, but he's not convinced. After all, she did just try to turn him into a houseplant. He admits that he doesn't even know his own past, but he clenches his fist, his resolve hardening. He declares that if his master never mentioned it, it's not a problem. He dismisses this shocking news as completely irrelevant. The only thing that matters is if she's a threat to his new life. A sly, knowing smile forms on the demon lord's face. She breaks into a laugh, finding his priorities hilarious. She assures him she has no reason to bother him or the town. She explains she only acts when provoked, and this fight is over. She teases that she could destroy him at any moment if she chose. Bran listens intently, his expression unreadable. With her power, she explains, she could wipe out an entire kingdom. He asks if she was the one behind the recent monster uprising. She admits she was curious about his aura, but now sees he's no threat. In fact, unlike the original sixth, he seems to genuinely enjoy peace. She points out that he only ever defended himself, never truly attacking. A fact she finds endearing, as she prefers a quiet life herself. Bran wonders if another demon lord would have been so understanding. A vision of Lilith, the first demon lord, ruler of dragons and beasts. The current lord laughs, explaining that Lilith despises the sixth with a passion. Bran finally realizes the black dragon was one of her underlings. He asks what the original sixth was, but she refuses to even speak of it. He's left stunned by the implications of her terrified silence. She cheerfully changes the subject, finally asking for his name. She invites him back to play, anytime, an offer he immediately refuses. He begins the long 3-day trek back to his peaceful life. All he wanted was to do chores, but he keeps getting dragged into world-ending events. He walks on, dreaming of a hot bath and his new vegetable garden. Back at the guild, Rena and Arya greet his safe return. They explain the forest has calmed down, and quests are finally back. But Bran declares he's taking the day off for a well-deserved bath. The girls are surprised, mentioning the local hot springs are open. They're shocked to learn he's never even been. With bright smiles, they offer to show him the way. The scene shifts to the town's grand and welcoming bathhouse. Bran sinks into the hot water, feeling a sense of pure bliss. He finds the place is packed with familiar faces from around town. The others playfully tease him, happy to see him finally relaxing. He decides that while his own bath is nice, this isn't so bad either. The men offer to wash his back, a gesture of true camaraderie. On the other side, Rena and Arya hear the commotion from the men's bath. But Bran is pulled from the water, having nearly passed out from relaxation. And in the shadows of the city, a monstrous form stirs in the darkness. He was completely unaware of the terrible plan unfolding in his new home. A mysterious figure stands before a captive beast, a new threat emerging. The scene shifts to the Black Forest, where a familiar face is hard at work. It's Kururu, the Sword Saint, handling a quest meant for an entire party. She sighs, clearly annoyed by the constant demands on her time. She only agreed to this to keep the guild from hunting down Bran. She reminds the guild official that losing her would be a disaster. Still, she accepts her duty, knowing she has little choice in the matter. She returns to her quiet home, a place she keeps ready for his return. A memory surfaces of a younger Bran, telling her of his newfound dream. He wanted to find a purpose beyond being a simple weapon. Kururu listened, her expression unreadable but attentive. She held him close, assuring him that everything would be all right. Back in the present, she smiles, wondering how much he's grown, but she worries that he's still emotionally unprepared for the world. She remembers the state he was in when she first found him. Her thoughts are interrupted by a new report on her desk. It details a vile organization creating human-demon hybrids. Among the captives, she sees a familiar, broken child. An official tells her to ignore the flattery and focus on the next target. Elsewhere, the sinister leader of the organization lets out a laugh. He stands before Kururu, taunting her with his latest creation. He presents a young boy, calling him the ultimate weapon. Kururu scoffs, dismissing his masterpiece as a mere child, but her cold demeanor shatters when the boy pleads for help. The leader gives the order, unleashing his weapon upon her. The boy attacks with monstrous power, catching even the Sword Saint off guard. He stands alone, a conduit for an impossible torrent of dark magic. Kururu faces him across a chasm of fire and destruction. But behind the power, his eyes are empty, a puppet in a war he doesn't understand. The sinister leader watches with a twisted smile, proud of his living weapon. Kururu grips her sword, the sheer force of the boy's attacks rattling her to the bone. The battle rages, a blur of steel and shadow. She moves with blinding speed, trying to find an opening in his relentless assault. She realizes she can't hold back. This child is far stronger than she ever imagined. A flicker of hesitation crosses her face. The boy cries out, questioning what future could possibly await such a monster. He reaches out, bloodied and broken, a child beneath the demonic power. And in that moment, Kururu sees not a weapon but a victim. She knows she cannot bring herself to destroy him. With a new resolve, she closes the distance between them. Her hand reaches out, not to strike but to save. She refuses to let a child's future be stolen for the sake of a madman's ambition. He collapses, his power exhausted, confused by this sudden act of mercy. Kururu stands over him, the battle finally over. A gentle smile forms on her lips. She looks down at the broken boy, assuring him that he's finally safe. She lifts him into her arms, offering him a new path forward, a new life free from the pain of his past. The flashback ends, Kururu reflecting on how she could only show him the life she knew. But she smiles, knowing that as long as he follows his own heart, that's all that matters. She wonders what he's up to, hoping he'll have stories to share when he returns. Meanwhile, Bran walks through town, humming to himself with a cheerful smile. He looks at the quest board, thrilled to see so many simple jobs available again. But his good mood is interrupted by an annoyed grunt from behind him. Another adventurer glares, calling out the cowardly chore boy. The adventurer shoves past him, clearly looking for a fight. He declares he's nothing like Bran, vowing to become a true hero. He demands a rank 8 quest to finally get his promotion. Rena tries to placate him with a strained, professional smile, but he complains that only low-level jobs are left on the board. The other adventurers chime in, suggesting quests in the now infamous Demon Forest. Rena is quickly overwhelmed by the rowdy crowd. But the guildmaster arrives, confirming the forest is now safe. He officially lifts the restrictions, and the guild erupts in cheers. The ambitious adventurer is fired up, but the master warns them to stay vigilant. The guildmaster gives Rena a knowing look from across the room, a silent order to keep things under control. The adventurer demands his quest, and Rena reluctantly agrees. But the only rank 8 quest is a simple fruit-gathering mission. He asks for a monster hunt, but Rena firmly tells him to take what's available. Meanwhile, Bran calmly hands over his own quest slip, completely unfazed. Our boy just wants to work. The other adventurer glares back, annoyed by his rival's indifference. He heads into the forest, grumbling about his menial task. But he reminds himself that this is his ticket to a higher rank. He stops, realizing he has no idea what he's looking for. He shouts in frustration, unable to find the specific fruit anywhere. He searches desperately, realizing he can't just fake it. His hopes of a quick promotion are quickly fading. He assumes the easier areas have already been picked clean. So he decides to venture deeper, past the designated safe zone. He steps over the rope, ignoring the clear warning. But even in the deeper woods, his search yields nothing. And he's completely unaware of the danger lurking just behind him. A massive toad-like monster lashes out with its tongue. The adventurer can only cry out as the attack connects. He's completely caught, staring up in absolute terror. The creature, a mad frog, savors its easy meal, but the adventurer gets to his feet, believing he can handle this beast. With a defiant cry, he charges into the fray. The monster, however, unleashes a powerful counterattack. He's completely caught off guard by its surprising strength. He wonders why his attacks are having no effect at all, but his problems are only just beginning. A new, far deadlier shadow falls over the battlefield. A monstrous claw swipes down with impossible force. He's sent flying, crashing through the underbrush. The impact leaves him battered and broken. He slumps against a tree, his body finally giving out. His foolish ambition has led him to the brink of death. A rank 6 assassin snake looms over its new prey. He knows he should run, but his body is frozen in fear. The beast prepares to unleash a final, deadly blast. But something intercepts the attack in a flash of darkness. A shower of dark liquid covers the forest floor. The massive snake collapses, its life instantly extinguished. He's left covered in the aftermath, utterly confused. He struggles to understand if he's just been saved, but he quickly dismisses the impossible thought. He assumes it was a fluke. After all, no one else is around. But he's completely unaware of the true power watching him. His bravado shatters, crying out that he just wants to go home. Just then, a familiar face appears from the shadows. Bran asks if he's all right, his expression calm and unreadable. He quickly administers a healing potion. Guess bedside manner isn't his strong suit. Bran asks if he's still hurt, completely missing the social cues. The adventurer can only stammer, completely bewildered by what's happening. He looks down at his own body, now completely healed. He was sure his bones were broken, but the potion worked instantly. He realizes a low ranker shouldn't have such a rare and expensive item. Bran asks if the potion was old, completely missing the point. The adventurer grabs him, demanding to know why he'd wasted on him. Bran's answer is simple: because he looked like he was dying. The guy panics, explaining the potion is worth a fortune he can't repay. But Bran just says it's fine. He used it because he wanted to. The adventurer is humbled, remembering how he'd mocked Bran. But Bran just smiles, saying he actually likes the nickname Chore Boy. With the lesson over, he tells the guy it's time to head back. He offers some advice on navigating the forest using the local flora. The adventurer is stunned, asking how Bran knew about his quest. He realizes the guild sent Bran as a babysitter, expecting him to fail. His pride is completely shattered. But Bran's next words cut even deeper, mentioning his sick mother. He explains the fruit is a key ingredient for the medicine she needs. He holds it out, explaining that without these simple quests, people suffer. The adventurer is left speechless, his worldview completely upended. Bran turns to leave, his point made. The adventurer clarifies that the guild wasn't mocking him. Rena was just worried about him trying to support his family alone. He realizes he needs to focus on what's truly important. He clutches the fruit, a symbol of his near-fatal mistake. He breaks down in tears, overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. Bran watches on, his expression as stoic as ever. He then casually mentions the dead snake would be worth some money. The adventurer is confused. The snake just dropped dead out of nowhere. Bran just shrugs, telling him they need to report it to the guild. The adventurer argues that Bran can't just take credit for the kill. He accuses Bran of cheating, but our boy is just confused by the whole thing. After all, the massive snake is very, very dead. Bran carries the exhausted adventurer all the way back to town. The man tries to refuse his share of the reward for the snake, but Bran insists he didn't do anything to earn it. The adventurer can only call him a weirdo, completely baffled. He clutches his new pouch of coins, a gift from a rival. A merchant asks Bran for his name to properly thank him. The adventurer interrupts, saying he only knows him as the Chore Boy. He demands to know the name of the man who saved his life. He then offers a sincere, if flustered, apology for his past behavior. A small, knowing smile forms on Bran's face. He finally introduces himself, leaving the adventurer stunned. The man grabs him, repeating the name Bran in disbelief. He introduces himself as Gajir, vowing to repay this debt. Bran watches him go, noting that he's a surprisingly dutiful guy. Back at the guild, he tells Rena he had nothing to do with the incident. Rena gives him a look that says, "I know, but I'm not buying it." Bran just smiles, proud to have converted another to the cause of menial labor. Rena's co-worker teases her that they'll need a new system for all these chore lovers. With that settled, Bran heads back to the quest board. He decides on his next mission, heading off with purpose. His new quest takes him to a much darker part of the city. He's accepted a patrol mission in the city's vast sewer system. He notes that while it's dark, he can just enhance his vision with magic. He sees other adventurers complaining about the smell and the filth. A dark, ominous tunnel looms in the distance. It should be a simple patrol as long as nothing goes wrong. But Bran's expression shows he's already sensing that something will. He notes the place is crawling with monsters, clearly neglected. He understands why no one would take such an inefficient quest. But a horde of monstrous rats is the perfect job for him. He's immediately disgusted by the texture of his work. He identifies them as dust mice, weak but fast-breeding. He wonders how creatures from the demon forest got in here. He decides to deal with the infestation before it gets worse. He looks over the mountain of defeated rats, a job well done. Now he has to figure out how to dispose of the evidence. He can't risk being seen as a monster hunter again, but he notices one of the creatures has a strange coloration. He wonders if it's a mutation or a sign of a dangerous disease. He considers using his own magic, but it's far too destructive. The memory of the sixth demon lord flashes in his mind. He sighs, annoyed by this constant string of complications. All he wants is a simple, quiet life of menial labor. With a grunt of frustration, he decides to risk it. He came here to be helpful, not a secret city protector. He extends his hand, summoning a familiar dark energy. He carefully incinerates the evidence, hoping no one notices. The bodies are reduced to ash in a matter of seconds. He realizes all the mutated creatures were in the deeper tunnels. His expression hardens. This is no random infestation. He continues his patrol, now on high alert. He senses a strange presence just around the corner. It's a familiar, unpleasant feeling, cleverly concealed. He finds a magical barrier blocking his path. He reaches out, realizing this is part of his investigation. With a simple push, he shatters the powerful illusion. Beyond the barrier, he finds a hidden door. He's taken aback by the strength of the barrier. He notes that this is an incredibly powerful ward, one that's been here for a long time, completely unnoticed. He wonders what could possibly be hidden behind it. With a push, the heavy door swings open. His expression hardens as he steps into the unknown. He finds himself in a vast, hidden laboratory. The place is a chaotic mess of experiments and notes. He realizes this is the source of the strange presence. This must be where the mutated dust mice escaped from. It's clear someone was conducting twisted research here. He picks up a document, trying to make sense of it all. He finds a strange crest he doesn't recognize. But the moment he touches it, a sharp pain hits him. It's the same feeling as his strange ability, but no information comes. He deduces the crest itself is the source of the pain. He decides to gather all the documents as evidence. But his investigation is suddenly interrupted. A powerful force erupts from one of the cages. He turns to face the new unexpected threat. The blast incinerates the evidence he just collected. Well, so much for a clean investigation. His expression darkens, his patience wearing thin. He draws his sword, ready to end this quickly. A colossal king beast emerges from the shadows. It shatters its cage with a single furious swipe. The creature now stands free, its rage palpable. But he realizes it's not a natural beast at all. It's a grotesque fusion of different creatures. He identifies it as a chimera, a forbidden creation, a monster born from humanity's darkest ambitions. Bran stands ready as the chimera unleashes a torrent of energy. He realizes with horror that human parts were used in its creation. His expression hardens. This is not something he can forgive. The grotesque creature's form shifts and writhes in agony. It unleashes a powerful breath attack, hoping to end this quickly. But Bran deflects the blast with an impossible spin of his sword. The chimera's eyes widen in shock at his defiance. Bran is taken aback as the creature lets out a strange, guttural cry. A wave of toxic gas erupts from the monster's maw. He clutches his throat, the poison already taking effect. The other caged creatures cry out in terror from the fumes. He realizes the gas is a deadly neurotoxin. Well, that's not ideal. The chimera smirks, believing its victory is now certain. Bran stumbles, the poison coursing through his veins. But he calmly informs the beast that poison has no effect on him. With a single, clean slice, he ends the creature's suffering. He stands amidst the aftermath, the battle finally over. He walks through the wreckage, complaining that his enhanced senses are a curse. He picks up a charred remnant of the evidence he'd collected. He knows some dark organization was behind these twisted experiments. He recalls his master's words telling him to rely on her. But for now, he has to deal with the evidence of his fight. He knows the lab's owner is powerful and will sense his magic. He realizes he can use a different kind of magic to cover his tracks. A sly smile forms. After all, deception is his specialty. He leaves the lab to burn, his patrol quest officially complete. Elsewhere, a cry of pure, unadulterated rage echoes. The lab's owner returns to find his life's work in ashes. He can't believe his barrier was broken by a mere adventurer. And he's baffled that his foe defeated the chimera without using any magic. He laments that all his hard work has been undone by the Sword Saint. His rage boils over. He will not forgive this intrusion. He opens a dark portal, summoning a creature from an otherworldly vault. He declares that no one gets away with interfering with his organization. With a sinister smile, he vows to hunt down the one responsible. Back at the guild, Bran asks Rena if he can accept a quest from a small monkey. The scene shifts to a desolate mountain where a beast of pure lightning roams. It's under attack, deflecting a barrage of enchanted daggers. A new adventurer appears, taunting the beast for finally being cornered. A wild, confident smile plays on her lips. She introduces herself as Regina, declaring their long game of tag is over. This is a holy thunder beast, a legendary rank 1 monster. But Regina just scoffs, completely unfazed by the warnings. Elsewhere, others worry that she's being reckless, taking it on alone. She just laughs, telling them to relax. She knows her own limits. But on the battlefield, she's knocked to the ground, admitting she can't win alone. The beast stands over her, crackling with immense power. Regina can only look up, seemingly defeated. But a bloody, determined grin spreads across her face. She gets up and fights again and again and again. The beast begins to falter, its energy waning from the prolonged battle. Regina's body now crackles with stolen lightning. The power courses through her, a dangerous gambit paying off. She absorbs the beast's very essence, growing stronger by the second. She notes that its power is as impressive as she'd hoped. With her newfound strength, she closes the distance for the final blow. She declares that after all this time, she is finally the stronger one. With a single slash, she unleashes a devastating wave of energy. She thanks the beast for the 4 years of training it gave her. With one final strike, she puts an end to their long and bloody rivalry. The battle has taken its toll, leaving Regina completely exhausted. But she lets out a roar of pure, unadulterated victory. She collapses to the ground, spent but satisfied with her hard-won fight. With a triumphant smile, she declares she's one step closer to that person. But back at the guild, she's met with some truly unbelievable news. An official confirms that the Black Emperor has retired. The void he left has caused a massive backlog of high-level quests. But the official is just happy that with Regina's return, they can finally catch up. Regina, however, is not taking the news well at all. She vows to hunt down the Black Emperor no matter where he's hiding. Meanwhile, our boy is completely oblivious, enjoying a peaceful morning. He and Arya walk through the town, appreciating the perfect weather. He declares it's a perfect day for chores, and Arya can only laugh. He asks why she's joining him on such a simple, unglamorous quest. She explains her goal is to be an adventurer who helps everyone in town. Bran is stunned, realizing he's become a role model for menial labor. He sees that Arya understood the true spirit of adventuring from the very start. They arrive at a farm, where a friendly woman greets them with a bright smile. She's thrilled that 2 adventurers accepted her humble request. She leads them to the barn, explaining the task at hand. Their quest, to help care for a flock of very enthusiastic sheep. The job is simple enough. Clean the barn while the sheep are outside. Arya admits she's a bit nervous, having never cared for animals before. But Bran's expression darkens. He knows his animal curse is the real problem here. He tries to get started, but is immediately swarmed by the fluffy horde. He tells Arya to go and get the cleaning supplies for the barn. She agrees, ready to let the sheep out into the pasture. But Bran stops her, noticing her hesitation at the gate. She admits she's terrified of the fluffy creatures, comparing them to snakes. He just waves her off, telling her to get on with it while he gets the tools. With her eyes squeezed shut, Arya tries to shoo the sheep out. But the fluffy horde seems completely unimpressed by her efforts. The farm owner and her daughter watch on, confused by the delay. The sheep, however, are perfectly content to just nap. Arya decides to get a bit more hands-on with the situation. She puts all her strength into moving just one of them, but she's shocked to find it's as solid as a rock. The sheep turns, giving her a look of pure, unadulterated annoyance. With a powerful kick, it sends the poor girl flying, but Bran moves in a flash, catching her before she hits the ground. Arya is left completely flustered by the sudden rescue. Bran simply asks what on earth she was trying to do. He tells her not to worry as she stammers out an apology. He turns his attention to the surprisingly stubborn flock. He notes that these sheep are a different kind of troublesome. Arya can't believe she's being mocked by a farm animal. Bran tells her he'll take over, much to her concern. He admits he was hoping she could handle it due to his animal curse. But with a dark look, he decides he has no other choice. He addresses the flock, his voice dripping with menace. A wave of pure pressure washes over the entire pen. With a single cold command, he tells them to get out. The sheep are suddenly overcome with primal terror. In a flash, they stampede out of the barn in a panic. The farm owner and her daughter can only stare in disbelief. The entire flock flees as if their lives depend on it. The dust settles, leaving a completely empty barn. Bran stands calmly as Arya looks on, completely speechless. She asks how he managed it, and he just calls it a little intimidation. He notes that on humans, that trick usually just makes them pass out. He wonders if his animal curse is somehow tied to the Demon Lord's heart. But Arya snaps him out of it, ready to get this cleaning quest started. She gets to work with a surprising amount of gusto. Bran, meanwhile, cleans the ceiling while hanging upside down. As one does. In no time at all, the entire barn is sparkling clean, but their satisfaction is cut short by a new problem. Arya desperately tries to get the sheep to come back inside, but the flock has decided to take a nap, completely ignoring her. She collapses in defeat, admitting that intimidation is just too hard. So Bran steps in, and with a single command, the sheep are back in the barn. The farm owner's daughter now looks at him with pure adoration. She even asks him to teach her his amazing intimidation techniques. The farm owner waves them off, grateful for their hard work. She asks if the sheep were any trouble, and Bran just calls them good kids. The traumatized flock, however, would probably disagree. Back at the guild, Bran suddenly declares he's taking a month off. The announcement leaves both Arya and the guild staff completely stunned. Arya worries that she's somehow the reason for his sudden departure. She vows to practice harder, inspired by his example. The guild worker asks why he didn't file any paperwork for his vacation. Bran is genuinely confused. He didn't think he needed to. After all, in his old life, taking a day off was a concept more foreign than failure. She explains that as an adventurer, he's free to take breaks whenever he wants. He decides he'll visit his hometown, a 2-week journey from here. The name of the empire jogs his memory of his past life. The other adventurers note that the Black Emperor's been quiet lately. The guild worker asks if he's enjoying his new life, and he confirms that he is. The others complain, jealous that he gets to take such a long vacation. The guild worker just laughs, telling them to bring back souvenirs. With that, Bran bids farewell to his new friends and sets off on his journey. Back at the guild, Rena's co-worker realizes Bran is from the Radion Empire. She wonders why someone from such a major nation would join their small guild. Her friend points out the Empire has the most top rankers in menial quests. Still, she finds it strange he'd register so far from home. Her friend suggests he must be hiding a dark and mysterious past. The co-worker then accuses her friend of being the one interested in Bran. Rena's co-worker is stunned, realizing she's been played this whole time. Her friend just laughs, telling her to aim for a man with more ambition. Meanwhile, Bran sits by a campfire, noting the cold night air. He begins his long journey, a 2-week trip by foot. A friendly old man in a wagon calls out to the young traveler. He warns Bran that traveling this road alone is incredibly dangerous, but their conversation is cut short by a sudden, terrified scream. A horde of monstrous boars charges straight for the helpless family. Bran calmly stands between the monsters and the wagon. Just another Tuesday. In an instant, the threat is neutralized, the beasts defeated. The grateful family thanks him, offering him a ride for his troubles. But Bran politely declines, saying he prefers to walk this time. A little girl offers him a small pouch as a token of her gratitude. He waves them off, watching as the family safely continues their journey. He opens the pouch, wondering what the small gift could be. He takes a bite and is immediately blown away by the incredible taste. He briefly regrets not taking their offer for a ride and more snacks. He decides to take a shortcut through the mountains to avoid being seen. He stretches, ready to enjoy a peaceful 2-person journey. Wait, who's the second person? But his enthusiasm for a quiet walk quickly begins to fade. He realizes he's had enough of the forest bathing experience for one lifetime. He picks up the pace, but something ahead forces him to a sudden stop. Perched in a tree, he senses a strange magical presence nearby. With an annoyed sigh, he realizes he has no choice but to investigate. He recognizes the magic. It's like the barrier from the sewers. But this one is far weaker, barely an inconvenience. He looks around, trying to pinpoint the source of the disturbance. His search leads him to a dilapidated hidden building. A lookout spots him, mistaking him for a common bandit. Bran overhears them discussing their ties to a sinister organization. One of the men is suddenly startled by a sound. His companion turns, asking what's wrong. Too little, too late, buddy. Bran appears from the shadows, neutralizing the first guard instantly. The hooded man turns, alerted by the sudden thud. A well-aimed rock connects squarely with his forehead. Bran follows up with a swift kick, ending the fight. He sighs, annoyed that he acted too quickly. He should have let them talk more to gather intel. A memory of a bloody blade flashes in his mind. He looks at the organization's crest, regretting his messy work. With the guards handled, he stands before the hideout's main doors. He can sense multiple human presences just beyond, and among them, the faint auras of their captives. He knows this isn't a job for a simple adventurer. He recalls his master teaching him about helping others, a lesson he couldn't understand back then. But now he pulls up his mask, ready to be the hero they need. Inside, the bandits are completely oblivious, lost in their revelry. A moment later, the room is a scene of utter devastation. Bran stands amidst the chaos, facing their hulking leader. His eyes are cold, his patience completely gone. The creature is another grotesque experiment, marked with the same crest. He summons a familiar barrage of dark, piercing spears, and with a single, powerful slash, he moves in for the kill. He dodges the attack, surprised by the sudden resistance. He realizes this intruder is far more cunning than a simple monster. The bandits realize a direct assault would endanger their captives. He decides rescuing the hostages must come before anything else. He senses their presence just beyond a reinforced door. With a single, powerful kick, he shatters the lock. But what he finds inside leaves him completely stunned. It's another hidden lab, filled with unconscious victims. He sees they're being used for the same twisted experiments. The sight fills him with a familiar cold rage. He sees children among the captives, their lives stolen. Suddenly, a sharp pain lances through his head. A flood of unfamiliar memories washes over him. He hears a voice, a memory that isn't his own. The psychic backlash forces him to his knees. He gasps for air, trying to make sense of the vision. He wonders what that strange phenomenon could have been. He questions if those memories truly belong to him. He thinks of his master, the only past he's ever known. But he shakes it off. There's no time for a personal crisis. He turns his attention to the captives, his duty clear. He stands before a cage of children, telling them he's here to help. With a single strike, he shatters the bars of their prison. Their despair turns to tears of overwhelming relief. Bran watches them, his expression hidden by his mask. He tells them to hurry, leading them out of the dark lab. But one of the girls points to the other victims. His gaze hardens as he looks upon the others. He understands her silent plea to save everyone. He knows he can't leave anyone behind in this place. He gently closes the eyes of a fallen victim. He offers a quiet prayer for them to rest in peace. The rescued children can only weep at the horror. He tells them they must leave before the bandits return. But it's too late, their captors are already here. He tells the others to trust him. He'll handle this. They explain they were always moved blindfolded, unaware of this place. One of the captives worries for the other's safety. A young boy assures them he's physically unharmed. Bran's senses pick up on the boy's condition. He wonders how he knew that without even asking. This ability is getting weird. The bandits call out, demanding the intruder show himself. A wave of nausea hits Bran, thinking of their crimes. The bandits stand ready, their faces twisted with cruelty. He clutches his chest, overcome by this strange feeling. Their leader taunts him, mocking his sense of justice. Bran's eyes narrow with a cold, simmering rage. The man tells him not to interfere with their fun. He calls Bran a fool for daring to come here all alone. They mock his silence, but the fight is over in a flash. Guess they shouldn't have monologued. He holds the leader by the throat, demanding to know what they are. He stands amidst the carnage, asking what this place is. The bandit can only let out a terrified scream. Bran's shadow looms over him, demanding answers. The man writhes in agony, but Bran is relentless. He repeats his question, his voice cold and unforgiving. His eyes burn with fury as he demands the truth. The bandit pleads ignorance, saying he just followed orders. Another explains they were just pawns, given power for their service. Bran listens, his expression hidden but his anger palpable. The bandit insists they were just pawns, knowing nothing of the plan. But a small voice from the doorway pulls him from his thoughts. He turns to see the rescued victims, wondering what's happened. They point to the defeated leader, identifying him as their tormentor. Their fear turns to anger, blaming him for everything they've lost. Bran tells them his part is over. What happens next is up to them. The bandit pleads for mercy, but none is to be found here. His cries for help are silenced as justice is finally served. Bran closes the door, leaving them to their grim and necessary task. He turns his attention back to the children, checking their condition. He notes that with time, they should make a full recovery. But he worries about any unknown side effects from the experiments. He wonders if this strange new insight is part of his ability. He decides to leave the complicated questions for his master to solve. With the immediate threat gone, he looks to the survivors. One of the women asks what they'll do now with no home to return to. They have no money, no family, and nowhere left to go. The children sleep, blissfully unaware of their uncertain future. Bran offers a solution. He'll escort them to the nearest city. The woman is taken aback by his unexpected kindness. Soon, the walls of a city appear on the horizon. Their despair finally breaks into tears of overwhelming joy. His duty done, he bids them farewell from a distance. He turns to leave, his detour finally at an end. A small, genuine smile forms on his face. This must be that helping people thing. But his journey is being watched from the shadows. A mysterious figure senses a familiar, nostalgic aura. He smiles, happy to know that Bran is doing well. Back in the city, the rescued children are given proper care. The survivors recount their tale, grateful for a second chance. The local lord reviews the case, finding the details highly unusual. An aide confirms the survivors are stable and will recover. But he admits he can't identify the strange drugs used on them. The lord ponders the mystery, his concern growing with every detail. He asks the survivors if they remember anything about their rescuer. They only recall a mysterious, hooded figure who seemed to know the way. One woman adds that their hero seemed to get lost on the way back. The lord's frustration grows. The story makes no sense at all. Guess mysterious benefactor isn't a valid police report. He apologizes, realizing he's only upsetting the traumatized victims. He deduces their savior must be a high-ranking adventurer. A warrior of that caliber is someone he'd very much like to meet. He assures the survivors they'll be cared for in his city. Overcome with gratitude, they thank him for his generosity. Alone now, he speculates the bandits were using teleportation magic. He knows this incident must be reported to the capital immediately. The scene shifts to the infamous and dangerous Black Forest. Bran walks through the woods, a nostalgic feeling washing over him. He remembers his grueling training here with his master. It was in this forest he learned to sense danger before it struck, but now he's the one facing down a horde of monsters. He pauses for a moment, sensing something is off. With the beast defeated, he senses an unwelcome presence nearby. He spots two figures watching his master's home from a distance. He sighs, realizing they're likely spies sent by the guild. He knows his master would never give up his location anyway, so he decides to take a shortcut to avoid the hassle. His path leads him through a set of ancient, forgotten ruins. He notes the area is unnaturally quiet, devoid of monsters. He looks up, his attention drawn to something in the distance. He spots a massive statue, declaring he's found what he's looking for. He stands before the statue, recalling the entrance mechanism. With a grunt of effort, he inserts his sword into a hidden slot. He twists the blade like a key, following a specific pattern. The mechanism clicks into place, a perfect and familiar fit. The ground rumbles as a section of the floor begins to descend. A hidden staircase is revealed, leading into the darkness below. He steps inside, his sheathed sword glowing with a soft light. He notes the magical light stones lining the corridor. Very convenient for a secret lair, but he stops, sensing a sudden change in the air. His eyes widen as a blur of motion rushes towards him. He's sent flying by a powerful, completely unseen attack. The force of the blow shatters the wall where he just stood. He gets to his feet, annoyed he didn't sense the attack sooner. A figure emerges from the shadows, greeting him casually. It's his former companion, the elf-like man, with a smug smile. Bran can only stare in shock, recognizing his other master.